Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Extremely excited to welcome back to the Bucknuts Morning 5 Duane Long. Got some shoulder surgery. Starting to feel a little bit better. Duane, we appreciate that you getting back with us, brother. How you feeling?
Oh, the wing's healing. You know, it gets better every day. It was something that needed to be done, get in there and clean all that mess out and get me back up to where I'm not in pain a good bit of the time. But, yeah, it's coming along nicely. Glad to appreciate people coming out on the board and giving me good wishes and prayers. And I think it worked. Everything's coming along. Surgery went well, and I'll be back on the boards hopefully by the end of the week.
Anybody who's had some surgery knows how traumatic that can be, so we are certainly glad Duane is on the mend and will be around to ruffle feathers here for quite some time. Okay, it's a morning talk show about Ohio State. Obviously, the players have done well to fill the content schedule of what we're going to discuss today. Duane, everyone's got an opinion, I assume. JT Barrett, I think Urban Meyer kind of characterized it best yesterday when he said he first learned of the news. He received a text message and called back the person and said, "Do you have the name right?" or something close to that. Kind of talk about your reaction when you heard the news about JT Barrett, your feelings on the punishment, kind of where we are right now with JT, and then we'll go into Cardale after that.
Well, it's shocking. I mean, everything you know about this guy, he was such a mature kid. He had that one little incident with a girlfriend, and he handled that so very well. He did everything he was supposed to do, and nothing, and that didn't amount to anything. If you were picking a guy on the roster who wouldn't do something like this, he'd be one of the first names out of your mouth. So I would say that shocked, more so than surprised, and I would say disappointed. You know, you're a captain. You're the one that's supposed to lead. You're not supposed to be the one getting into trouble. You know, and you let your team down here. You know, you're coming off a change at quarterback. You've been named the starter. Team's starting to roll, and then you're going to go do something like this. So you got a week off. And now you got a week where you're not going to play. And the timing of it was horrible, that he did it right now when he's moved back into the starting lineup. So disappointed. And as far as the punishment, I thought it was accurate. The prescribed is 2 games for the more serious offense, and they gave him 1 for this offense. I would like for Coach just to really get in these guys' faces about drinking and driving. I mean, for one thing, you live on campus. It isn't like you can't get a ride. There are people that carry these guys around wherever they wanted to go. So, you know, he didn't think this through well at all. He hurt his team. He hurt himself. Could have hurt somebody. So I'm bothered by that. And, you know, he just let everybody down here. But the punishment is appropriate considering the standard.
This is a complete shot in the dark. This is not based on fact or that I know anything, but here's what I think may have happened. Meyer said yesterday that when Barrett came to his house, he didn't even consider it because he doesn't drink that much, and he's trying to take someone home. It would not surprise me to find out if the person he was trying to take home was a female and he made a bad decision, because you want to see some 20-somethings make bad decisions about alcohol. Introduce females into the situation, and their decision-making gets a lot worse. Again, that's not a fact. That's not based on inside information, but reading the tea leaves and being 20 at one point in my life and having to make such bad decisions, and I would have been in the car with a girl too, so let's be clear. I probably wouldn't have been I'd probably been more, at the time, listen, that's why I had a little bit of trouble with this, because I kind of live in a glass house on this, unfortunately, based on a youth that was spent being a knucklehead. So I hope he learns from it. I think he will. I think they're going to be fine, actually. What are your expectations for Cardale? I said this to a couple of the guys at Bucknuts. I have a feeling, obviously based on the opponent and the situation, might help with Minnesota. I think he's going to have a huge game. I think Cardale's one of those guys who needs to be needed. I think he's going to see this as a chance for him to save the day. JT won't be on the bench with his helmet on. what are your expectations for Cardale?
Oh, I think that Cardale has to. If he isn't thinking it himself, somebody around him should be saying, "You got benched. Now you can win the job back." He at least complicates the situation again if he comes out and bombs away. Now I hope they give him an opportunity to do that, because I didn't see the same offense with Cardale under center that we won national championship with. We were not throwing the ball down the field like we should have been. And then we can come back and run up the gut when those safeties drop back. We weren't seeing that. And you have to throw it, Dan. It's not just, you're thinking about completing it. Well, that is the ultimate. But you have to throw it to make the safeties think, he can throw it over my head. I can't be in the box because this guy will take 2 steps and throw it 50 yards, and I'm not going to be able to get there. We have to throw the ball down the field. And Jones, if he comes out and he has a big game, well, we got a situation again. And that's what I think he should be thinking. I believe that is what he's thinking. And I think he's going to get it done. I think he's got all this preparation time. He's the total focus. Practice reps are not being spread around. It's just him and the offense. And like you said, he's not looking at the bench, and the first face he sees is J.T. Barrett. It's all his, and here's his opportunity to really put a wrench in the plans again. So I'm confident he will do that.
My only hope is he just cuts it loose and views it as his last opportunity, or I don't know about last, but a tremendous opportunity. There was a certain recklessness is not the word, but in his games against Wisconsin, Alabama, and Oregon last year in that miracle run, there was a certain swagger and aggressiveness to his game that I thought gave him an advantage and took advantage of his skills. The first games he's played here this year, it felt like he was trying to do almost a JT impersonation, and that's not what they need from him. I'd like to see him cut it loose. If they went deep the first 5 plays of the game, that would be fine for me, just to send a message. Kind of like Patrick ending the first 3 shots from North Carolina back in the day when he was a freshman, to kind of send a message. I think it would give him his swagger back, and I'd love to see it.
Well, throwing the ball down the field would be that's what he's got to do that. The offense has to do that just to throw it. You can't let him throw the ball over top of you. You can't think he is not going to. If we know he can, make them think that he will. You have to sit back. You cannot come to the line of scrimmage. If we send that message early, I think this game could explode early. He's going to connect on some of them. His history with the long ball is he's like nearly 60% completions over 20 yards, and 7 touchdowns, no interceptions at the end of last season. So let him throw the ball down the field and make them have to respect it. Absolutely, I think, key to this.
No doubt. And once again, it's very nice to be able to go to a backup who has a 10-0 record as a starter and won the national championship recently. It's a little bit ridiculous. I think 25 years from now, we're going to look back on this whole situation and giggle at what an embarrassment of riches it was, but so be it. Speaking of gloriousness, tonight, the College Football Playoff Committee will release its first ranking. Let's be clear on this before we go any further. It's going to be fun to talk about, and given that Ohio State's defending national championship, there's obviously some increased interest here. But the initial ranking is almost insignificant in that I think Ohio State was ranked 14th or 15th last year when it first came out. But that said, do you expect Ohio State to be in the top 4?
Oh, I expect Ohio State to be number 1. I don't see why a lot of people I think that fans, it really irritates them, what they consider to be a lack of respect. I think that they have to look at that and say, why are people doing that? Getting attention is important. So I believe that so often when we're seeing sportscasters on television, that the people sitting behind the cameras are saying, say something that's going to stir things up. And that's what happens. That's what they want. They want the attention. The committee wants less attention. They're much more interested in just getting it right. And we saw last year that they did. So I got a firm belief that Ohio State, they're still getting voted number one clearly. I don't know if there's a poll out there that doesn't have Ohio State number one, clearly number one. That's what the committee's going to see. They're going to put Ohio State in at number one. I just don't see any chance that Ohio State's not number one. People are talking about Baylor. I just don't see that. I don't see Baylor. I see either one of the SEC teams, LSU or Alabama, being number one before Baylor. Baylor's probably going to be slotted in there at number two. I see I'd say LSU, Alabama / I think LSU wins the football game, but Alabama or LSU is my pick right now. Alabama could knock them off. And my number 4 is Clemson. I think they've got the easiest route, and they're playing really good football. I don't see anybody standing in the way. I think people get knocked out ahead of them. One of the interesting phenomena here is going to be Ole Miss. Ole Miss has the win over Alabama, and they played well Saturday night. If they win out, they really mess. Alabama could be a one-loss team in the top 5, winning all those national championships recently, and not be in the playoff. It could very easily happen. I don't see the bowl committee ever taking 2 teams from the same conference because of the championship game. The championship game knocks one of those teams out. I think it's going to be a very interesting thing. I don't know if it will ever happen under a 4-team format that 2 teams from the same conference make it. I just don't see it.
I think you're right. I think once we go to 8, that'll all be solved.
And we will.
That happens in the next few years. I hope that happens in the next few years. I don't understand.
Well, it could be
more playoffs would be better. Go ahead.
It could be a matter of this being the thing. You've got a one-loss Alabama team, top 5, maybe top 4, who does not get in, who deserve to get in, and they don't because we're only taking 4, and you lost to Ole Miss. I really think that 8 is the number. I would go bigger, but I do think it dilutes the regular season. I admit that. I just want more football. I think you get a more definite champion if you go 16, but we can't go 16. It just can't do that. 8 is the number. They could even go 6, Dan. Have the top 2 seeds have a bye the first week. That's going to build excitement.
I guess we could do that. I mean, I really want to see them go 8. I think that's the magic number. I think if you look back over time, you'd be relatively hard-pressed to find a team 9 through 12 that was a legitimate title threat. It happens, but it's not common.
Right.
For what it's worth right now, Las Vegas, the Bovada came out with its odds yesterday to win the championship. And I'm sure not everyone on here is a bettor. I certainly hope not everybody is. But Vegas, it's a cliche. There's a reason the buildings are so damn tall there. And it's because they know what they're doing, and they clear out all the vested interests and motivate themselves by only one thing, and that's the almighty dollar. Here's their top 6 to win the championship by the odds right now. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Baylor. Number 5, LSU. Number 6, Stanford. To me, that's about as close as you can get it. I'm not sold on Baylor or any Big 12 arena football team, but I can understand why they're ranked based on pedigree. But to me, it's OSU, Bama, Clemson, and LSU are the 4 best teams in the country right now. And I said this out loud. The player that scares me the most is Deshaun Watson out of Clemson. If for no other reason, he's the guy Urban Meyer really wanted for the offense. So the irony in him leading them back against Ohio State down the stretch would be something. Okay.
Well, you also have to look at Baylor. Baylor losing their quarterback. That's another thing. Are they just going to be able to go Ohio State here and plug another guy in? That's the chances that's happening is very, very slim. And the other teams, as you said, Watson. Also, think about this: can you name Alabama's quarterback? Can you name LSU's quarterback?
I'm a nerd. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can too, but
your point.
Yeah, they don't have the guys that can. They don't have the guys that can carry them. I have LSU in there because Fournette is just that kind of guy that can carry a team. But Alabama does not have a impressive quarterback. Neither does LSU. A guy who is going to be touching the ball every down. Where do you look at? You look at quarterback, and who has that? Ohio State and Clemson.
Yep, no doubt. I've said this ever since about midway through last season. When I'm evaluating who can beat Ohio State, my first question is, can you score 40 points against the Buckeyes? Because it's not been proven to me that the Buckeyes sitting on their, not even all cylinders, but most cylinders, they're going to get 40. It's been proven. So you've got to get 40. I don't see Jake Coker or Brandon Harris, the two aforementioned Alabama and LSU quarterbacks, respectively, being able to do that. Deshaun Watson scares me. As for Baylor, that's the one school I think can make an argument that their quarterback will be able to step in, given the success they've had with guys like Bryce Petty, Nick Lawrence, who wasn't very talented, and RG3 before that. And the guy they're bringing in, Jarrett Stidham, was a very highly touted quarterback. That said, I just can't believe you can put a true freshman in there and not make a few mistakes that will eventually knock them off the road to the championship. All right, the guy we want to talk about, I think, outside of Ohio State or outside of Columbus, maybe the one coach Ohio State fans have the most affection for, former offensive coordinator Tom Herman, who is another coach who hasn't lost a game in well over a year. He has Houston off to a top 20 start, and he's turned the quarterback there into a fringe Heisman candidate. So, of course, he has become, if not the hottest name, one of the hottest names in the coaching carousel chatter. There have been several jobs that open up. I'm going to give you a theory of mine, Duane. We've been talking about this ad nauseum on the boards. And the question is, will Herman leave? And it's interesting because it's only been 1 year in Houston, but let's talk more about, rather than Herman, the openings that have come up and whether he should go for them. I think the general sentiment is he should hold out for a marquee job. Marquee job to me means you have a chance to go to the playoff virtually every year. You're not facing any major mountains in recruiting. You're a conference contender for the title every year. As I see it, out there right now, there is one job like that, and that is the University of Southern California. Do you put, and we've also reported, thankfully to Tony Morrell, who's an insider on our South Carolina site, that Herman is the absolute number one candidate at South Carolina and will have to refuse the job before they move on to another candidate. If you were Tom Herman, what would you do?
If I had the option of USC sitting out there, I wouldn't even think about it. I don't think that South Carolina is a good job. I think Steve Spurrier did the best that he could with it, and he couldn't do anything with it. He was such a big name, a big face in college football, couldn't get recruits to come there. You got Dabo Swinney right around the corner who is killing it with recruiting. You got everybody's coming. Ohio State's coming down there after players. Georgia hits that area hard. It's just going to be so hard for South Carolina to recruit. We know him. Apparently the South Carolina people know him, but he's not the kind of big name. If Spurrier can't recruit down there, I don't see where Herman's going to be able to recruit down there. I would wait. I would not take that job. I don't think it's that much more a better job than Houston is. It's just not a great job. I would hold out if I were him. I wouldn't take that job. He's going to have better options.
Go ahead. Okay,
he's going to have better options.
Give me three schools that you think he would go to if they open. Obviously, there's discussion. Let's keep it realistic here. There's discussion of possible openings now at Georgia. I put Georgia in that great job mix. I know Mark Richt hasn't necessarily done all anyone expects down there, but given the recruiting hotbed or soil that you're on and where you are in the SEC in terms of division, I think that's a great job. And then there's rumors of Texas possibly opening, though it doesn't seem like that will happen. If you're Herman, do you hold out for one of these marquee jobs and try and get some more money out of Houston for a year, or do you strike while the iron is hot?
I go ahead and there's no reason why he has to do anything. He took this team with somebody else's players, and look what he's done with it. He can wait. He's in a great situation. He went, back home, so to speak. he's surrounded by immense talent already there in the state. He's picked off a couple of guys that nobody thought Houston even had a shot at. So we know his recruiting prowess anyway. He needs to sit around and wait on a better job to open up. It doesn't make sense for him to take a job that a legend couldn't do anything with. So you wait on Texas, see what's going to happen there. I thought that Texas was going to get better. They had a big win a couple of weeks ago, and now they just got run out of the ballpark again. So at some point, Texas has got to make that decision, and he's got to be a guy at the top of that list. There's no doubt about that. He doesn't have to do anything. He's getting paid well. Like you said, right now they're going to find a check laying around somewhere and put his name on it to keep him more interested. You know, go out and buy a nice vacation home or something here with us. You know, it's not necessary for him to bolt. He gets more of his players in. It's going to be a more quality player than what's there, and he's already winning with the guys he's got. So I don't think he needs to be in a hurry to do anything. And it doesn't make any sense for him to just bolt for a job that's just not that much better than what he's got.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We appreciate Duane stopping by. Yeah, we will keep you updated on the Cardale JT as the quarterbacks turn. Have a great day, Bucknutters.